After days of large-scale protests, more and more Chinese cities are easing COVID curbs, but there are concerns of renewed surge in fresh COVID-19 cases and its impact on the Chinese medical system. The concerns stem from low vaccination and booster rates. On top of it, US intel says China is unwilling to accept Western vaccines. More Chinese cities, including Urumqi in the far west, announced easing of coronavirus curbs today. The ease in restrictions come as China tries to make its zero-COVID policy more targeted and less erroneous. Urumqi, the capital of the Xinjiang region, will reopen shopping malls, markets, restaurants and other venues from Monday. The easing comes after months of strict lockdowns in the city. A deadly apartment fire last month in Urumqi had sparked dozens of protests against COVID curbs in over 20 cities. The protests came as unprecedented show of civil disobedience in mainland China ever since President Xi Jinping took power in 2012. In recent days, numerous cities including Beijing, Wuhan, Shenzhen, Nanning and others have announced easing of lockdowns, testing requirements and quarantine rules. The relaxation in restrictions also comes at the back of a drop in new daily cases. The numbers dropped nationwide to just over 31,000 on Sunday.
我们回老家，去看望自己的这个父母都很不方便，以及我们的这个工作，像我们出差啊，我们要去这个见客户啊之类的，这些工作也是很不方便。那么现在呢，随着这个政策的逐渐的放开，那么像我们这些，这个工作的人呢，其实还是看到一些希望，还是希望这个。政策呢能够随着这个病毒的这个传播和它的这个严重性呢，能够进一步的去放开。
But easing curbs may not be an all good news for Chinese people. Researchers have analyzed how many deaths the country could see if it pivots to a full reopening, and their findings are not so encouraging. An estimate by Center for Disease Control in southwestern Guangxi region says China could face more than 2 million deaths if it loosened COVID curbs in the same way Hong Kong did this year. Adding that infection could rise to more than 233 million. Another estimate by British scientific information and analytics company Airfinity suggests China could see anywhere between 1.3 to 2.1 million deaths if it lifts its zero-COVID policy. Experts point to the country's relatively low vaccination rates and a lack of herd immunity as the reasons for potential surge in deaths. To combat the hazard, China has set ambitious COVID-19 vaccination targets. Sources say Beijing wants 90% of those aged 80 and above to get first dose by late January. Officials say China has also ordered provinces to review vaccination status of elderly and build a database of chronic disease sufferers. As per latest data available, 76.6% of those aged 80 and above have received at least one shot in China. Moreover, only 40% have received a booster dose. As of 2020, China had more than 36 million people in the age group. But how is China planning to get more vaccine shots to meet its ambitious targets? Now, according to US intel, Chinese President Xi Jinping is unwilling to accept Western vaccines. This despite the challenges China is facing and may potentially face due to COVID-19.
You know, seeing protests and the response to it is countering, you know, the narrative that he likes to put forward, which is that China is so much more effective at government, they're better at management, there's sort of no chaos here, we don't have these kinds of problems, right? And it also, I think, is highlighting the fact that despite the impact it's having on the economy, despite the human impact of the zero COVID policy on communities who, you know, are experiencing this in China, he's unwilling to take a better vaccine from the West and is instead relying on a vaccine in China that's just not nearly as effective against Omicron and the challenges that they're facing. And that's, I think, a challenge for him to manage.
So now China is essentially trying to navigate its challenges without a tool it could have adopted many months ago in form of Western vaccines. According to a March 2022 report, as early as spring of 2020, a Chinese pharmaceutical company, Fosun Pharma, reached an agreement to distribute and eventually manufacture vaccines of Pfizer and BioNTech. But it was not cleared in mainland China, despite being authorized for use by separate authorities in Hong Kong and Macau. Health experts say the result of putting politics and national pride above public health could now lead to millions of avoidable coronavirus deaths in mainland China. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.